Brentford at the moment are threatening Manchester City. City have just had a shot over the crossbar, but Brentford! Oh, my goodness me! What has happened to Smith?
No way.
Oh, it's Ivan Toney with the goal. What a brilliant counter this is from Brentford. Manchester City were trying everything they could to try and break down this Brentford defence. They couldn't do it. Brentford, a really quick counter-attack on the left-hand side. And then as the ball comes across, who is there? It's Ivan Toney. And it's 2-1 to Brentford.
Welcome to the Beesotted Pride of West London podcast, a podcast that is still basking in the reflective glory of beating the best team in the world, Manchester City, at the Etihad at the weekend. I mean, we're going to talk about this. This is arguably the best result in Brentford's history. None of us are old enough, thankfully, to remember the first lot of the halcyon days. There were some incredible victories under Harry Curtis and that team. The modern era, history has been rewritten, it seems, 2 or 3 times a season. But, none of us will ever forget what happened at the Etihad. So it was just this amazing euphoria after the final whistle went. We just couldn't. We just wanted it. We just needed to get to the pub. We needed to celebrate. All the normal Beesotted stuff went out the window. It was a special day, and we just went out and just got battered, I have to say. We need to go over what happened up in Manchester, and news never stops. We've obviously we're calling this on a Wednesday evening just after Ivan Toney, who's never out of the news at the moment, who's just been implicated in a betting situation. The FA are charging him. We're going to talk about all of this in this podcast. So tonight I have with me, I'm Dave Lane, by the way, but I've got Ali Mullaley. How are you, Ali?
I'm very well, thank you, Dave. I was still on a high, still trying to scrape myself off the ceiling until about an hour ago, and then I'll come down back to earth with a bump. But I'm very well, thank you.
It's a bit crazy because obviously we had no intention of talking about anything other than the Man City game, but as you said, events kind of take over. And the women's game, of course. But and also we've got Matt the Allard with us tonight. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm very well, Dave Laney Lane.
Lacey Lane.
That's what we call you on a Man City podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, I quite like it. It's quite nice, isn't it? Yeah, I don't mind it. I've been called a lot worse by you two as well.
True. I thought, I was thinking, who is Dave? This is from the previous podcast when the Man City guy was saying he was going to speak to Dave Lacey.
Yeah. I think Billy calls me Dave Laney Lane the whole time, but this Dave Lacey Lane, this is quite
Lacey Lane.
It's quite racy.
Racy
Lacey Lane.
Yeah. So I'll
stop now.
We'll quickly move on. So we're gonna it was gonna be a quick in and outer today, but I think it'll be a little bit longer than we first thought. But I think before we move on, Matt, as you said, like events have kind of caught up with us a little bit tonight.
Yeah, sometimes you think, is it better if this news drops 5 minutes after we finish recording, and then you think, right, okay, do we need to go back and add a bit on at the end? And then when it happens just before you record, you think, oh shit, I haven't got time to actually think this through. And we don't know that much at the moment, apart from he's been charged with misconduct in relation to alleged breaches of the FA betting rules. I'm just reading this out. It's alleged that the Brentford FC forward breached FA Rule E8 232 times between the 25th of February 2017 and the 23rd of January 2021. I think the two things that strike me, 232 and the length of time that those 232 breaches happened.
This follows on from reports in the newspapers 2 or 3 weeks ago in the Mail. Then the Sun kind of usurped them, and it claimed that England ace involved in betting scandal. Basically, no one's suggesting it's match fixing or anything like that. Although we don't actually know what the implications. There's been a 7-month investigation into this apparently. Jim Levac on Beesotted, he wrote a lengthy article. The links will be in the links below, saying he was kind of suspicious of the timing. It seemed to be timed to scupper Ivan's World Cup hopes. But Al, the club have made a very short statement. So the club has been in discussions with Ivan and his legal representatives about this matter, and those conversations will continue privately. We will make no further comment until the matter has been completed. That's the Brentford FC website this evening. What's your take on this, Al?
Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, we without knowing the full details, we've only got very limited details. The club obviously aren't saying anything much. The FA haven't said much. There's various different sub-paragraphs of rule at E8, some of which would be much more serious than others, depending on what the breaches are. I mean, my reading of it is, having looked at the E8 rule, that if it's E8.1, it could possibly be something as simple as just putting an hacker on every Saturday, which of course he's not allowed to do, but would probably be cast as a more minor misdemeanor. But I think there's other sub-paragraphs where imply that if you could be tipping somebody off with inside information, which would obviously be a bit more serious. But I don't think we can't really speculate, can we? Don't know what's going on. I think we'll find out more next Thursday, because he's got until next Thursday to respond. And I think we just have to take it from there, really. I mean, whatever it is, I think. Yeah,
it's clearly not.
He's been a very silly boy. He's been a very silly boy, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I think we can't really say much more than that, to be honest, at the moment.
Matt, innocent and proven guilty until proven guilty and all that, but it's still not brilliant.
No, it's not. I just to follow up Ali's point. I think for people that don't know out there, is that essentially if you play football, the FA rules say you can't bet on any football game. I think it's anywhere in the world. Or transfers of players or anything. So it's not about betting on a game you're involved in. You just can't bet on any game. So when Ali says ACCAs, he's talking about it could be an ACCA in, in League 2 or something like that. A league you're not in. I think even in a country you're not in. That's what the rules say. So and then it goes, and then it can go much further and be much worse. So I think it's right that we can't really say a whole lot at the moment, because we honestly, we don't know how serious this is. It's just the amount of times is also, how much. I mean, betting is all over football. Remember, I mean, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? That you've got betting everywhere in football, and then there's also gambling addiction, which is is an illness. So there's all sorts of different things that can come out of this, and I think it's we have to say at the moment we really don't know much more. We don't know any more than the 3 or 4 lines I read out from the
100%. I don't think it'd be fair for us to kind of extrapolate as bad as it could get. I mean, it could be a fine, it could be a ban, it could be a ban for life. It's just depending on whatever, and it could be innocent and he might be found not guilty. If there is any guilty verdicts, they could could be appeals, and it could drag on for a long time, or it could be over and done with. So obviously we all hope it's as innocent as it can be, but until the investigation's gone through its full process, then it's hard for us to carry on. Surmising about what the implications could be. It's just sod's law, isn't it, that it happens the week of the World Cup, and it happens a couple of days after Ivan Toney arguably plays the game of his life. Al?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely sod's law. I mean, the club was on such a high, he was on such a high, and then this is just really, really disappointing news for everybody involved. I think. It's just sort of like, it's another Brentford week in the week of Brentford weeks, isn't it, really?
It didn't
highs
look
and
like
lows all over the place.
It didn't look like he was playing with the weight of anything hanging over him, Matt, did he? On Saturday, this would have been in the background of his mind. He played with the freedom of someone that didn't have a worry in the world.
It certainly appeared that way, and maybe it is a good thing that we've now got 6 weeks, and maybe in. Is it 5 or 6 weeks, however long it is, 6 weeks, so everyone will be clearer, because I think if this had been announced and we were playing Saturday, you are in a mad scramble, aren't you, as to what happens next?
100%.
We've now got 6 weeks to figure it out.
We have.
Yeah. And hopefully there'll be some clarity, and everybody will have got over the initial shock and the initial scrambling around and everything else. So
yeah,
hopefully whatever happens, by the time we get to the restart of the season, we'll know exactly what the situation is and what we're dealing with.
100%. Look, the minute it appeared in the press and they said it was a 7-month investigation, it had to come to a head somehow. This seems to be the head, and we need to get some clarity and some truth. And some justice, obviously. Rules are there for a reason, and no one can break them. So, obviously we stick with Ivan. He's our player, and we will support him. And obviously the club will do so too. I think we ought to move on, but we obviously couldn't not mention that. It's such big news, and it happens so rarely. So it's clearly a shame that one of our players is involved in this. So let's have a quick twang. And let's go back to where we thought we'd be starting this news. Actually, we won't have a twang. We'll have a twang, and we'll have a bit of stelling as well. And after the twang and some stelling, we'll come back and we'll go back to the Etihad on Saturday for the Brentford beating the best team in the world.
Ivan Toney has had 5 attempts on goal. All 5 have been on target. And he has scored twice, and Manchester City are heading for a second defeat in 26 Premier League games. And if it stays this way and Arsenal win at Wolves, the gap at the top will be 5 points. 5 points in Arsenal's favour. There are still a couple of minutes remaining, though, at the Etihad. 10 minutes of added time, remember. Toney has scored twice, and Brentford lead by 2-1. And I'm sure he must be thinking, are you watching Gareth Southgate?
So, a game that we will never, ever forget. We've been spoiled this season already. We've beaten Manchester United 4-0. We've beaten Manchester City 2-1 at their place. We've beaten the European champions, Leeds United, 5-2 at our place. And this is on the back of beating Chelsea, who were the world champions last year, and Arsenal in our first game in the Premier League. It's been a kind of a regular challenge to our previous best ever achievement. And I don't think it's anyone. I mean, I know we made our predictions last week, and there's people that would have looked at the odds at 20-1 and what have you. And I know there was people that did put money on it. But did you ever really think we were going to win, Ali?
If you remember last week on the podcast, Dave Laney, what did I say?
Yeah, I know you said you said.
I said I have a sneaky feeling about this one.
You kind of went, football's a funny old game.
Yeah, I did have a sneaky feeling. I did then predict us to lose 2-1, but I did say I had a sneaky feeling.
100%, and we did say that Man City did lose 1 or 2 games a season, and why couldn't it be us? And lots of things had to go our way, but we undervalued the performance that we put in, didn't we, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to Ali, and I'll be honest, Ali, I raised my eyebrows because I thought I can't see it. I can't see it. I just couldn't see us getting anything out of. I thought maybe you somehow scramble a draw, but I think we underestimated our team, and that probably comes from a few performances in recent weeks and stuff like that. And we underestimated the tactical nous of our manager. I think there was a lot of and maybe Man City underestimated us a bit, but I don't think we should take anything away from our performance. I've listened to a Man City podcast, and they spent most of it talking about what they did wrong, but they did also highlight that we really went there and had a game plan to win a game of football. It wasn't a game plan to survive; it was a game plan to win.
Look, let's start. First, I'm going to go to Ali here. Pep versus Thomas Frank. That is a kind of a head-to-head that no one ever really thought, in that, well, talking about outside, TW8. Pep is kind of seen as a god in the game, and rightly so. He's achieved, he doesn't need to explain or kind of justify his accolades. We've won everything, hasn't he? But he was out tacticked on Saturday, and how did you see that as the game panned out?
Oh, very much so. Especially in the second half, I found it really odd. I think Thomas made 3 substitutions during the second half, and Pep only made 1, which was really, really quite strange because they weren't dealing with our tactics, which was basically the tactic, as far as I could see, was not to isolate Haaland, but to isolate De Bruyne, who's basically where all the balls to Haaland are going to come in. And it's you could see every time De Bruyne had the ball, Frank in particular was, as in Onyeka, not Thomas, was over there like a shot. He was on him like a shot. And they just didn't seem to be able to deal with our aerial threat. And I'm not saying we were playing long ball. No. We did play some long balls, but it would be really, really unfair to say that we played a long ball game because we didn't. You just need to look at the winning goal. That was not a long ball goal by any stretch of the imagination. But they struggled the whole time to deal with the aerial threat of Toney, the flick-ons from Toney. And it was just, Pep didn't seem to change his tactics at all at any point. And whereas, Thomas went for the win at 1-1, changed his tactics, brought on Josh, and it was almost like he didn't know what to do, which is really, really unusual. So I think Thomas did out-tactic him, which is, hats off to Thomas, 100%.
Matt, the 5 at the back system has come under a little bit of criticism at times this season, but it worked to perfection on Saturday, did it not?
Yeah, it works well when you play teams that play sort of an attacking 3, an obvious attacking 3. I think, and a lot of the top teams do. So you can say you play 3 at the back against the top teams, or you could say we play 3 at the back when teams have, an attacking 3 rather than, an isolated, although he was somewhat isolated, Haaland. But you've got Bernardo Silva and Foden, haven't you, playing alongside him, really. And it works in quite a few of those games. I think, going back to the Pep thing, I think that Haaland is sort of, in a way, as good as he and as brilliant as he is, he's also given him a problem because it wasn't working. So what do you do with 20 minutes to go? Do you take Haaland off and then fall back to the normal, the Man City of last season? Or do you just keep, because Haaland wants a certain type of ball. And you know what? I reckon, especially me and Zanka, and everyone sort of took Haaland at different points during the game, would much prefer to be sort of, grappling with Haaland or whatever physically than having, fast passes played around them and runners beyond them. And I think Man City played into our game plan because they were banging, they were more or less sort of, by the end of it, hitting crosses and diagonal balls and taking pot shots from a distance. Yeah. And it just, and then it opens up, doesn't it? Because they do commit players forward, Man City, which so somebody might say, we changed our tactics, and that worked. But I think you have to take into account the team you've beaten is that Man City, a bit like Liverpool, they'll throw players forwards, which does give you the opportunity to get behind them if you're brave.
And we were brave.
If you say, for example, that's what I mean. So we were brave, and it gives us that opportunity. So I think when we play Tottenham, we'll see a different game because Tottenham will not commit that amount of players forwards, and they will literally sit back. And if we try to play the same way, we'll all stand there looking at each other. So Man City did play into our strengths.
And their strengths, and you looked at the team, and it looked a mismatch in some departments. Zanka and Roslev. We know that they are not, challenged is the wrong word because they're both now experienced Premiership footballers. But you put them up against a Man City, and you can't imagine that's going to be your strongest team. But they were kind of like, I don't want to patronise them, but that they looked every bit up to the challenge, didn't they, Ali?
I've been quite critical of Roslev in recent games, but I thought he had an excellent game on Saturday. He was really, really good, and I don't think he put a foot wrong. He kept De Bruyne quiet. At one point, he had De Bruyne and Foden were both on the same side, and he was just everywhere he needed to be. I criticised his positional sense in previous weeks. His positional sense on Saturday was spot on. Now, whether or not that may be because of the way Man City play, as opposed, when we're playing the 3 and the 3 at the back, in that they're not going to come on to us in the same way that Forest did. But I thought he was fantastic. I thought it was his best game he's certainly had this season. probably his best game since the playoff final. So, hats off to him. I thought, for a young and inexperienced player, I thought I was going so far as to say magnificent on Saturday.
And we talk about Pep not changing things up because obviously he's got a supreme belief in his team that they can pull it out. The equaliser in injury time in the first half showed we were looking for the halftime whistle to blow, and they can still conjure a superb goal, not out of nothing, but it was a bit of a kind of a gasp moment. It's like, okay. That is Man City. That's what you do. You can play for 45 minutes, but they'll pull out something in the added time, because that's what they do. They do that so often. And then it got to, those 10 minutes of added time. We're looking at, we knew that a big number was going to come up because of the stoppages and because of the injury time. But it was us that pulled it, not out the bag. We could have had 4. The XG. I'm not going to do a billion, but it was 3.2 basically to 1.8, was it not, in XG? No one does that to Man City. Not at their place. We made big chances on another day. 3.2 XG gets you 5 or 6 goals. We had massive opportunities, so we actually probably deserved a little bit more, did we not, Matt?
Well, we could have been 2-0 up, couldn't we, after 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And we could have won 3-1.
Before we even scored,
neither of those
ahead, yeah.
Yeah, neither of those points are unrealistic. We should have won 3-1. We'd have been gutted if the opportunity for the third goal hadn't been at 1-1, and not been a goal. Because we, by that I just mean the shape of the break and the number of players we had for was, wasn't it 3v1 or whatever?
Yeah.
So yeah, we could easily have done more. It's the other thing I think is interesting as well is that we criticise sometimes about sitting too deep. I think we did at Forest, and we did we sat deep again against Man City, but we had an attacking intent when we got the ball. And what has frustrated me in recent weeks, and hopefully I did say this on a podcast a few weeks ago, is that when Raya gets the ball, I'm not seeing Mbumo like making that run for the quick ball, or I haven't been in recent weeks. But obviously that did change on Saturday. We were ready to go for every break, every opportunity.
We were so fast. I don't think I've ever seen. Yeah. I've never seen Rico. He's fast. I've never seen him that fast.
Yeah.
And Wisa, has he ever been as fast as that for that breakaway for the winner?
No. Rico was. I mean, I think I read Jensen covered the second most ground in the game. I don't know who covered the most. I'll be surprised if it wasn't.
Roslev.
Was it Roslev? Wow. Yeah. And you think of the amount of ground Rico covered. I mean, the times he got up the pitch, and most of the time it was it wasn't necessarily that he was going to get the ball. It was maybe to drag a defender out of the way or whatever, and keep someone occupied. But the amount of times Rico got up the pitch, and fair play to Jensen as well. He gets his criticism, didn't he? But God, he worked hard on Saturday. He really did.
He always works hard. Yeah. And coming back to Rico, for the winner, he makes that sprint up the pitch, and he's quite clearly indicated to play the ball to Josh, not to him.
Yeah.
So he's basically just running to take defenders away.
And if I'm being picky, exactly. And if I'm being picky, it wasn't the best ball to Josh either. It was behind him. Do you know what I mean? It even slowed us down a bit.
Well, none of us
were thinking, "Oh, Jesus, that's a bad ball." But it worked out.
It gave Ivan time to catch up with.
Yeah, true. Maybe Ivan wouldn't have got there. Maybe
none of
us. On Rico.
None of us were expecting him to cut to the byline and cross it in.
No, I was expecting him to try and curl it in on his left foot.
Curl it in with his left. 100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
And you know what? If he can do that, then that gets defenders really worried about which way he's going to go, because defenders like nothing more than knowing which way the player's going to go.
Confession
if he's added
time.
that to his game, he's a different player when he
How many
times
have you rewatched that on either BT or on Match of the Day, Matt? How many times? In the hundreds?
I mean, it's in the hundreds, and I've watched every possible angle of it. I've seen clips on, from iPhone clips. I've seen like in the ground clips from cameras, pitch side. I've seen every angle you can see, and it is just as good every time. Yeah. Apart from I do still groan at that pass.
It's true. It's slightly behind him. Ali, talk me through limbs from your seat when that.
Oh man, well it was what limbs for the various games or just for the winner?
No, just for the winner.
this one went out. It was absolutely mental. I mean, we were about 5 or 6 rows. We were on the lower tier where the slow standing is from the front, and we were on the end. And I remember my kids going, "If we get a winner, we're going down." And then the ball went in. The ball went in, and then they head off. Me and Ristic just sort of like hugged each other, went berserk. Henry emerged about 5 rows back and nearly knocked me over. And it was. There were people I hugged people I've never met before in my life, as well as people I probably wouldn't hug again. But it was absolutely mental. Absolutely, mental probably is a word I should be using. But it was absolutely brilliant.
Crazy.
It was crazy limbs, and it was like it just really went off. I mean, you hear it on the TV, don't you? The roar is just huge, 100%. And it was like complete. I mean, I think when the first one went in, it was, hey, we scored a goal, we scored first, let's enjoy it, take it back to the scoreboard because it won't last for long. They're going to get angry and score 4 goals. And then the longer the match ticked on without them getting another goal, you know, it's we might just nick a draw here, you know. They're not, you know, we might just. And then you get into stoppage time, and then it's still. And then you know, it was just incredible because
it was.
Not because it was completely unexpected because we played really well, but it was just and for it to be in the 98th minute because you know it was so late in the game, you thought
we can't lose it now. I mean, we thought
we could have.
Yeah, no, but we could have got a draw. I mean, you know, they could have brought it back to 2-2. It was too late for them to get 2. Surely, you know, that's what we're thinking. And
I remember thinking that when QPR away a few seasons ago when we were 2-0 up.
The celebrations went on long into the night and all the way back on the trains that after evening or the next morning or the flights. There was lots of people that made a lot of miles that weekend, and everyone enjoyed it. Before we move on, I mean, we could talk about this forever. Matt, where does it rank in the kind of recent history of all the results? Where would give us your top 3 recent results?
Well. How recent? Can we go back?
Well,
I mean,
go back 10 years. Go back 12 years.
Yeah, 4-1 away at Fulham.
Yep.
I know we're not in.
Still,
I know it's not in the Premier League, but it's hello. Here we are. We're Brentford. I mean, you know, the game when we, you know, after our promotion to the Championship. I still think that was a game where we announced. You know, you sort of announce yourselves to everybody, and especially to Fulham. I think the Arsenal game at the beginning of last season, just because it's the first game in the Premier League and you announce yourself to the Premier League, maybe, and then this game. I mean, that's kind of
in which order?
Oh, geez. I really hold us Arsenal third, and then there's just something about that Fulham game.
What, second or top?
I think it's top. I still think it's top.
I
think we have to revisit. Do you know what? I think we have to revisit this in a few months' time.
Okay.
Because it just that game just there's something I don't know that game just.
You're gonna get some splinters on your arse if you're going to come back in 3 months.
Yeah. I'm just
fence it in.
Maybe maybe we beat Liverpool before.
Hey, I'm not saying that we're not. This is it. This is the end of it. I'm
going to say that I'm going to stick with Fulham 4-1 because we've had some amazing times since then, and I still always go back to that game.
Yeah,
and I make Man City second.
I'd live that day over and over again. As well as Ali. Give us your top 3 in an order.
Oh my God! Can I have a top 5?
Yeah, do what you want. Do what you want, Ali. Do what you want.
For me, I'll go back a bit further than that. Actually, I think the Orient away, the Trotter redemption game, was a big one because I think that's probably the first time we actually thought, "Hang on, we're going to do this. We're going to get promoted to the Championship." I think that was a massive game at the time, and I mean, and that was a huge excitement that away day. That was complete limbs, wasn't it? Again, so that one's definitely up there.
Yep.
And then for terms of actual sheer importance, the playoff final. I mean, for sheer importance of getting into the Premier League and achieving everything that the club has been dreaming of for years. And then, oh dear, for me, it's a toss-up between City on Saturday and Chelsea away last season, because Chelsea was similarly completely unexpected, and because we went 1-0 down, having been on top of the game, and then it was just we just blew them away. I think it was more the fact that we, from 1-0 down, we came out in the second half and we absolutely blew them away. We didn't just beat them, we blew them away. So that for me probably just edges out. Oh, I don't know.
We've been spoiled. We have been spoiled.
We have been spoiled, 100%. That you could put so many games up there.
Hey, Dave, what are yours?
Yeah, Dave, what are yours?
Oh, okay. If you're going to push
Dave,
me,
tell us yours.
Oh, I'm going to go. I'm going to say top is Man City because they are the best team in the world. They weren't on a slump. They weren't like a shadow of their former selves. They weren't just a name. They are the most expensive and the best team on the planet. And we beat them and we played them. Not off the park, obviously there was a lot of possession that went their way. That's just half of the course. But we of big chances, no one does that to City. We did it. Second, I'll say Chelsea because they were world champions. They were champions and they just won the World Club Championship. And they again, obviously they weren't great on their day, but they were a superb team. They were European champions as well, weren't they not?
Yeah.
And then obviously the playoff because it got us there. But it's about the opposition really. We were playing a bang average Swansea team on the day, and although we beat them, the magnitude of the game got us to the Premier League. But probably I'd say the Arsenal game really a first game there because it was showing that we weren't going to be phased by a reputation. We were there in our own right and we were going to go and we really take it to them. So but I will go Man City, Chelsea, then the playoff final.
You see, you have thought about this before we did this, and you've just sprung it on us. So that's
not
a bit
really.
unfair.
I was thinking about it while you were talking about it. I haven't spent all day prepping for this.
Yeah.
Matt, I know you, Matt.
What I will say is that this was quite easy 10 years ago. I mean, basically, it was
very good point.
Peterborough.
Do you know what I mean? And
Newport County.
The thing is, look, we're dropping loads of games. We're dropping beating Man United 4-0. We're dropping, loads of other games. Full QPR away.
West Ham away.
Exactly.
There's lots. There's lots.
Yeah, it's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not ending. Let's underline this. It's not ending. Unlike this podcast, which is going to end, and we have to move on. Unfortunately.
Can I just say one more thing before we move on?
Yes, you can.
Who did Haaland remind you of on Saturday?
He looked
because he definitely reminded me of somebody.
He looked like out the Fast Show, the Kevin out of. Oh, he looked like a sulking teenager. He wasn't happy. He didn't want to be there. And Tony had completely kind of out-trumped him. About you?
He reminded me of Philip Hoffman.
Philip Hoffman, yeah. He's just a shit
He just really did just look like Hoffman, just lumbering around and falling over a lot. It was astonishing. Absolutely astonishing.
Who'd have thought?
He definitely wasn't a soup.
No. Right. No. We're gonna have a bit more Stelling. We're going to play that again, and then we're going to have a quick twang. We're going to come back, and Ali and Matt are going to talk about the women's game. I couldn't make it in the end, but we'll be back after this word.
But Brentford! Oh, my goodness me! What has happened?
So the weekend didn't end on Saturday. It continued into the Sunday. The Brentford Women's team... and they continued with the great vibe. Ali, tell me all about it.
Oh, it was such a fantastic day from beginning to end. I loved the way the club, and that you've got to give them massive kudos for this. They did everything that they would do for the men's game, from Peter G, Hey Jude, big screen, free to desire at the end. It was treated exactly like a men's game. And the crowd were great. The crowd really got behind the girls. And, it was a very Brentford performance. It was, dominate the game, then go 1-0 down, then keep hitting the post, hit the post. It did feel like at one point we were never going to score, but then, they came back and they scored, they played some lovely football. The fourth goal in particular was an absolute worldie. All the players, I thought, performed really well. They showed everybody what they can do. And, reading all their comments and all their posts on social media over the last few days, it will bring a tear to your eye. It was an incredible day, and really proud of Brentford for doing that. And it was a really enjoyable afternoon. And I really hope that more people go down to watch them regularly at Bedfont on a Sunday, and that the club, do it again. Do it again at least once a season.
Matt, you were one of the 5,000 plus that were there. How was the afternoon for you?
Joyous. Is if I could
joyous is a good word.
Yeah, it was fab. I felt it would be. I think it was always going to. Once you knew what was going to, what was happening, and the whole thing was going to be dealt with loads of respect and like you say, dealt with the full music thing, and then you're hoping they're going to win because if they don't win, it's a bit of a whimper at the end. So them winning, I think they probably had extra pressure on them. They may well have felt that pressure, and you know what? They still came through, and it was brilliant. We took our 13-year-old niece, and she absolutely loved it. There is videos of her going bonkers. I mean, not that I'd ever, to Free from Desire at the end, just absolutely jumping around and loving every minute of it. And I think that sums it up. We had a really, really good fun day.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, it is football and results help. Do you know what I mean? And it really did help. It was the absolute icing on the cake. I love the game. I love the team. I love the way Kylie Osborne set them up. I love the width. The width is like, it reminds me of the Warburton days. We literally had two wingers just hugging the touchline, and therefore you got so much width that you can just turn defence into attack because you can just play to the width. And is it Chloe Logie, the centre forward? How old is she?
16. She might be 17 now, but she's only just 17.
My word, what
a player,
a sort of player. I mean, for that age, she's incredible. I mean, I thought she was great. I think she's definitely a name to watch out for. Brilliant.
So a brilliantly positive end to a brilliantly positive weekend. So, I mean, I'm going to wrap it up here. You may notice that Beesotted podcast is going to be moving over to Acast. We've been signed up by TalkSport. So yeah, we're very proud to be picked to join their team. Brings us in with some of the best podcasters out there. They're putting together a really good team. So yeah, that's that. In the next few weeks, Billy's going to be off to the World Cup. I'm not.
He's already there, isn't he?
No, he's not at the moment, but I think he flies out later in the week. He flies out the morning of the Iran game. Yeah, so Billy's going to be bringing some World Cup content. What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to get Tim Street, who's the co-author of the Brentford Revolution book that's just come out, and probably 4 or 5 chums and a selection of people that have bought the Brentford Revolution book and have read it. We're going to try and get us all down to the globe. We can look back at Brentford's incredible rise over the last 13 years. And we can go through and pick out our best moments of the book and the best moments of our transition from one of the worst teams in British League football to one of the most exciting. So lots to look forward to over the World Cup break. Thank you to Ali Mullaley for being here tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it, Al.
I have very much.
Thank you to Matt the Allard. UBs. And don't forget to buy us a beer. Go to beesotted.com/beer. Subscribe to the podcast. Come and follow us on Twitter @Beesotted. And come on, UBs.
UBs.
UBs.